of this metaphor, which is when to strip ourselves down. You know, personal branding, which we all hear about, is this idea of dressing yourself up, whereas personal identity is this idea of stripping yourself down to the core of who you are, to your story. So what's your story? This is not just about what are you going to do in your business, it's about what are you going to do in your life to leave the legacy. And I'm here in the old town of Stockholm at the moment, where I wanted to just tell the story of two people who are both featured here in the old town. So we're going to kind of head up this little alleyway, and while we're going to where these two people are, or where they're represented here, I wanted to also share the three things to really build your own personal identity. So the first one is not about content, it's about context. It's about saying, well, who are the role models that I would have if I could choose three people who lived a life or represented the same values that I represent, that actually went on a path similar to the one I'd like to go on. I know for me, the three people that I've chosen in the last 10 years of my life have been Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell and Buckminster Fuller, people who actually came up with the most incredible models of the world of looking at both the past and the future. And so much of what I do at the moment is really inspired by the kind of life and the kind of journey that they went on. So who would be your three? Who would be the top three people you would have as a context? We're here in the kind of touristy spot at the moment, so you can kind of see it's pretty beautiful, but kind of quite a lot of people here around as well. And once you've actually chosen the three people, then just start seeing, well, what is it that they did and how did they do it? What did they learn? This is the second step, which is be the leading learner. This is not about being the teaching teacher where you have to be the expert in something, going out studying everything. It's about just being on that journey where you're conscious and aware that this journey is one in which it is your defining story, as opposed to any one instant, and it's a story which you get to choose starting today. Right here is this little hotel here I wanted to share with you. See the name of the hotel. It's called the Lady Hamilton Hotel, and let me show you what Lady Hamilton looks like. I don't think she's a relative, but talking about nakedness, she was someone who 300 years ago spent a lot of time naked, and that was because that's Lady Hamilton. And the reason for that is because she was the mistress, first of all, of Sir William Hamilton, who was an envoy for England, and then also became mistress for Lord Nelson. I've talked about Lord Nelson and the whole Battle of Trafalgar in an earlier video, but she was effectively a professional mistress, and she was, after getting together with the two of them, at the same time, by the way, so it was pretty notorious in Europe, and they were kind of like reported a lot in the papers and so on at the time. She was aspiring to be like the golden couple with Lord Nelson. And their strategy was to say, well, you know, William Hamilton's getting kind of old, so maybe the best thing is if we just like wait for him to die. It's not a very good strategy. But that's what they did, and they waited, and then eventually he did die in the early 1800s. And then within 2 years of that, Lord Nelson ends up getting headed off into the Napoleonic Wars. Battle of Trafalgar, dies, so it didn't work out very well. So here's the thing. You might have certain things you want to do in your life. You might have certain things that you aspire to, but you're putting them off because it's kind of like, oh yeah, I'll do it when it's the right time. Well, what happened to Lady Hamilton is she never actually got to her legacy, which she wanted to leave, which was to really be, you know, a model couple, to really be, you know, someone's going to leave, to become famous in a certain way. She became infamous because of her whole story and the fact that a couple of years after Lord Nelson died, she died as well. Not a good story, but I share it because the second story is one which allows us to see anything's possible. Here in Sweden, one of the most famous people is someone called Alfred Nobel, because Alfred Nobel is the person who came up with the Nobel Peace Prize. In fact, all the Nobel Prizes, like the science prizes as well. And most people don't realize that he actually went through his entire life as a arms manufacturer. He invented dynamite. This is Alfred Nobel. He went through his whole life doing this, and he didn't really think much about it because it was his dad's business, and he kept on looking for smarter, safer ways to manage explosives. But in 1888, one of his brothers, Ludwig, down in France, he died. And the newspapers mistakenly thought it was Alfred Nobel who died, so they actually wrote like an obituary, which said the king of death or the merchant of death is dead. And it was all about how this guy had like killed more people than ever through all of the armaments that he had created. And Alfred Nobel, who'd never really thought about like what was the story that he was going to be remembered for, what was his obituary going to be, he actually got to read it while he was still alive. And he's like, oh my gosh, this is not how I want to be remembered at all. So what he did was he decided at that moment he was going to change everything. And what he did was he set up the Nobel Peace Prize, he set up Nobel Science Prize. He basically said, I really want to be known for actually being able to make a difference in the lives of others. And as a result of that, he created not just a new story for himself, he created these amazing stories that we all know that people of like, Dalai Lama, people like Nelson Mandela, people that are now recognized because they won the Nobel Peace Prize for the amazing things they did. And look where I am right now. I'm actually in the main square in the Old Town. That behind me is the Nobel Museum, right? So all of the, I'm about to head in there, all the news info, all the stories behind all the Nobel Peace Prize winners are all in there as well. And I'm about to head in there to just see their stories. So what's your story? Like if someone like an arms manufacturer who's out just doing the worst things possible in terms of actually serving humanity suddenly ends up getting that conscience and then saying, wait, no, I want to do something different. I want to leave a legacy. And now here he is. And we are now hundreds of years later with this incredible legacy that has been left where he is actually out there honoring so many others as well. So first thing, who are your 3 role models? Second thing, what are you going to be a leading learner in? And then the third thing, and the most important thing of all, is what's going to be your story? What are you going to be an authority in? The word authority has the word author. Author, what is the story you're going to be telling that you're going to build an authority in? This is not history, this is not her story, this is your story. What is your story and what is it that you're going to do to make that difference while you're here on this planet? You build it into your business, you build it into who you are. This is not about your branding, dressing yourself up. This is about your identity, stripping yourself down. And you can start right now, today. All right, I'm heading in and I will see you in the next video.